The vertical agriculture is different, and this field has its own internet celebrity effect when it was born. As the name suggests, it is best indoors. Controlled lighting and temperature is a planting method for vertical production of vegetables and fruits. This new planting method has many advantages, but it can't be counted. It grows indoors in 4 seasons. The yield of food has doubled. Water consumption is reduced by 95%. Chemical pesticides in urban production are produced. Buy locally while watching and picking. It is the best model of postmodern agriculture, but its problems are also fatal. The initial investment or lighting energy consumption is huge, regardless of the industry chain or when consumer demand is very stretched. In fact, vertical agriculture has been in the investment circle in 2017. At that time, the US vertical agriculture company Plenty announced that it had received 200 million US dollars of investment from Google and Amazon. After that, many domestic teenagers rushed in and started their own businesses. They imagined that such urban farms would be popularized in China's cities soon. After 2 years, most of them came back with suspicion. This is actually normal. According to the technology maturity curve, when the new concept of technology comes out, people always overestimate what can happen in 2 years and underestimate the change that can happen in 10 years. Therefore, vertical agriculture in China today is obviously still in the embryonic stage of being bigger than the actual situation. If you look at the next 10 years, it will still have a huge space of imagination. Then there's the carbon and electricity revolution. It should be the absolute central battlefield for carbon neutrality and liberty. According to the data from the World Resource Institute in 2017, China's power generation and heating industries accounted for 41.6% of the overall carbon emissions. According to the World Energy Agency, by 2050, global electricity consumption will continue to increase to 2.5 times the current level. Among them, coal power generation is now the absolute bulk of carbon emissions. So now, it seems that the new power generation methods to replace coal to promote the entire human electrification process has become the top priority. So, electrification is the core of carbon neutrality, and low carbon electricity is the core of electrification. So, let's go one step further. What is the core of low carbon electricity? The answer is photovoltaic power generation and wind power generation. Because these two new energy forms are the two most mature. The IEA predicts that by 2040, the proportion of photovoltaic and wind energy and the total global power generation may rise from the current 7% to 24%, becoming the most important new energy source. Among them, photovoltaic power generation is the most feasible because its price has been declining in the past 10 years. In 2019, the global cost of large-scale photovoltaic power generation has been as low as 0.068 kilowatt hour. In the future, this field will be followed by the next generation photovoltaic materials such as perovskite. It is also possible to further reduce costs significantly. This is also good news for China because China's photovoltaic panel industry has an overwhelming advantage over the United States. In this regard, McKinsey had a detailed analysis in 2015's Global Effects of China's Innovation released report. He compared the comprehensive strengths of China and the United States, including semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, aviation, automobiles, and solar electronics in 33 industries back in 2013. He discovered China's advantages in the field of photovoltaic materials has both cost advantage and scale effect. According to the Rocky Mountain Institute estimation, by 2050, China's photovoltaic and wind power will account for 70% of the total installed capacity. This is 22 times that of 2016. With the rise of photovoltaic power generation, there are two other industries that will rise. The first is the energy storage industry, because photovoltaic power generation has a feature that is it does not use electricity during the day. The Northwest does not use electricity and it generates power. At night, the East needs electricity, but it does not generate electricity. It will become a big business if electricity is stored and supplied to the East. By 2050, the electrochemical storage industry is expected to grow from 189 megawatts in 2016 to 550 gigawatts. With the average annual growth rate of 26%, the second is distributed photovoltaics. For example, in the future, many residential and office buildings may see more and more photovoltaic panels. In the future, leasing and operating photovoltaic panels in cities may become big business. Another battlefield of electrification is that there is too much news in the automotive industry. Now, any technology company is embarrassed if it does not announce that it is involved in car building. One reason behind this crazy entry is the production cost of most critical lithium battery in electric vehicles is declining. According to Wright's law, the battery cost of every doubled production of electric vehicle will drop by 20%. In other words, the average price of electric vehicles is constantly approaching the average price of diesel vehicles over time. And once it crosses the intersection of the two prices, the whole market of electric cars will be blown out. Based from ARK fund projections, this intersection is approaching, and the global scale of electric vehicles in the next 5 years will increase from 2.2 million in 2020 to 40 million in 2025. The compound annual growth rate is as high as 82%. Of course, we have already talked a lot about the subject of automobiles. Here is a new energy transportation field. This is really mentioned in the news: railways. In fact, that efficiency of railway transportation is higher and low in carbon. Electrification is far better than roads, aviation, and navigation. Therefore, the new green infrastructure in the United States has raised the railway infrastructure to height unprecedented in 30 years. Because they realized that increasing the proportion of railway transportation is crucial to reducing transportation carbon emissions. However, in this regard, China's first mover advantage is too obvious. Just look at the comparison of China and the United States in the field of railway strength, and you will understand that China is really ahead of the curve. In addition, the trend of low carbon electricity will also affect the future of the digital industry. For example, the Bitcoin mining industry is actually more than 70% concentrated in China. The Economist talked about Bitcoin mining in an article in April. The large amount of energy consumed by the mining article estimates that if it is not controlled by 2024, the energy consumed by China in Bitcoin mining is roughly equivalent to that of Italy or Saudi Arabia. The annual carbon emissions of the entire country's electricity consumption will reach 130 million tons. So, with the advancement of carbon reduction tasks, China's supervision of Bitcoin mining will definitely become more stringent in the future. Another example is the traditional cloud computing industry. The original idea was that everything would go to the cloud, and the terminal would have to pass everything to the cloud for completion. This is obviously extremely not eco-friendly. Therefore, the green revolution will also make edge computing and cloud computing go hand in hand. This is also very good for the edge computing industry. After talking about electricity and agriculture, let's talk about the material revolution. First of all, The downstream of the entire petrochemical industry may face disruptive impacts. For example, the main material of plastic, polyethylene terephthalate, is commonly known as PET material. Its production process has a very high carbon emission. New materials such as polylactic acid or PBAT may become more popular, which means that in the future, new daily necessities produced from those could be a big hit. Another example is nylon, which is polyamide. It could be completely new in the future, such as substitution of bio-based polymer materials will also change the emergence of the whole textile and garment industry.